Austin Ivray poses this question to the Holy Father. I was curious to know, says Austin, if the Pope saw the crisis and the economic devastation it is wrecking as a chance for ecological conversion, for reassessing priorities and lifestyles. I asked the Pope concretely whether it was possible that we might see in the future an economy that, to use his words, was more human and less liquid. And Francis says in answer, and this is a long one today, there is an expression in Spanish, God always forgives, we forgive sometimes, but nature never forgives. We did not respond to the partial catastrophes. Who now speaks of the fires in Australia, or remembers that 18 months ago a boat could cross the North Pole because the glaciers had all melted? Who speaks now of the floods? I don't know if these are the revenge of nature, but they are certainly nature's responses. We have a selective memory. I want to dwell on this point. I was amazed at the 70th anniversary commemoration of the Normandy landings, which was attended by people at the highest levels of culture and politics. It was one big celebration. It's true that it marked the beginning of the end of the dictatorship, but no one seemed to recall the 10,000 boys who remained on that beach. When I went to Redempulja for the centenary of the First World War, I saw a lovely monument and the names on a stone, but that was it. I cried thinking of Benedict XVI's phrase, senseless massacre. And the same happened to me at Anazio on All Souls Day, thinking of all the North American soldiers buried there, each of whom had a family, and how any of them might have been me. At this time in Europe, when we're beginning to hear popular speeches and witness political decisions on this selective kind, it's all too easy to remember Hitler's speeches in 1933, which were not so different from some of the speeches of a few European politicians now. What comes to mind is another verse of Virgil's, Memnisse in vabit. Perhaps one day it will be good to remember these things too. We need to recover our memory, because memory will come to our aid. This is not humanity's first plague. The others have been mere anecdotes. We need to remember our roots, our tradition, which is packed full of memories. In the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius, the first week, as well as the contemplation to attain love in the fourth week, are completely taken up with remembering. It's a conversion through remembrance. This crisis is affecting us all, rich and poor alike, and putting a spotlight on hypocrisy. I'm worried by the hypocrisy of certain political personalities who speak of facing up to the crisis of a problem of hunger in the world, but who, in the meantime, manufacture weapons. This is a time to be converted from this kind of fundamental, functional hypocrisy. It's a time for integrity. Either we are coherent with our beliefs, or we lose everything. You asked me about conversion. Every crisis contains both danger and opportunity, the opportunity to move out from the danger. Today, I believe we have to slow down our rate of production and consumption, and to learn to understand and contemplate the natural world. We need to reconnect with our real surroundings. This is the opportunity for conversion. Yes, I see early signs of an economy that is less liquid, more human, but let us not lose our memory once all this is past. Let us not file it away and go back to where we were. This is a time to take the decisive step to move from using and misusing nature to contemplating it. We have lost the contemplative dimension. We have to get it back at this time. And speaking of contemplation, I'd like to dwell on one point. This is the moment to see the poor. Jesus says we have the poor with us always, that is true. But are they a reality we cannot deny? They are a reality we cannot deny, but the poor are hidden because poverty is bashful. In Rome recently, in the midst of the quarantine, a policeman said to a man, "You can't be on the street, go home." The response was, "I have no home, I live in the street." To discover such a large number of people who are on the margins, and we don't see them, because poverty is bashful. They are there, but we don't see them. They have become part of the landscape. They are things. St. Teresa of Calcutta saw them and had the courage to embark on a journey of conversion. To see the poor means to restore their humanity. They are not things, not garbage, they are people. We can't settle for a welfare policy such as we have for rescued animals. We often treat the poor like rescued animals. We can't settle for a partial welfare policy. I'm going to dare to offer some advice, says Pope Francis. This is the time to go to the underground. I'm thinking of Dostoevsky's short novel, Notes from the Underground. The employees of that prison hospital had become so inured they treated their poor prisoners like things, and seeing the way they treated one another, treated one who had just died, the one on the bed alongside tells them, "Enough. He too had a mother." We need to tell ourselves this often, that the poor person had a mother who raised him lovingly. Later in life, we don't know what happened, but it helps to think of that love he once received through his mother's hope. We disempower the poor. We don't give them the right to dream of their mothers. They don't know what affection is. Many live on drugs, and to see them can help us to discover the piety, the pietas, which points towards God and towards our neighbour. Go down into the underground and pass from the hyper-virtual, fleshless world to the suffering flesh of the poor. This is the conversion we have to undergo. And if we don't start there, there will be no conversion. I'm thinking at this time of the saints who live next door. They are heroes. Doctors, volunteers, religious sisters, priests, shop workers, all people performing their duty so that society can continue functioning. How many doctors and nurses have died? How many religious sisters have died? All serving. What comes to mind is something said by the tailor, in my view, one of the characters with greatest integrity in The Betrothed. He says, "The Lord does not leave his miracles half finished." If we become aware of this miracle of the next door saints, if we can follow their tracks, the miracle will end well for the good of all. God doesn't leave things halfway. We're the ones who do that. What are we living now in place of conversion, of metanoia? We have the chance to begin. So let's not let it slip from us. Let's move ahead.